Time and go ahead and get us started. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll take a moment, please. Good and gracious God, we gather here tonight with open hearts and to service our community, with our minds focused on the well-being of our neighbors. We ask for your wisdom to balance our resources with responsibility, and for our hearts to remember that the human stories behind every policy and every service. We give thanks for the commitment of each person that is here tonight, their willingness to serve with integrity and compassion, and for the opportunity for us to all come together in unity. Bless the work before us. May our presentations be informative. May our conversations be respectful, our decisions wise, and our actions just. Guide us and grant us patience and courage so that our decisions and discussions yield meaningful benefit and common good for the residents of our dear county. Amen.
Amen.
Next on our agenda tonight, we have the approval of the minutes.
I approve.
I have a first. Yep.
Second.
And a second from Mr. Ford. Thank you both. Next up is the approval of the agenda. I do want to point one thing out on page 3. Actually, the Community Support and Outreach Department, we're actually going to start with that. And if that's okay, that's how it should have printed. If everyone has had a moment to look at that. Does anyone have any questions or concerns on the agenda?
Motion to approve.
A motion to approve. Do we have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The agenda is approved. Next, we're going to start with the division report, starting with Ms. Starr.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Stephanie Starr. I'm the Director of Community Support and Outreach. All right, make sure everyone can hear me. Sorry about that. I'm Stephanie Starr. I am the Director of Community Support and Outreach. I'm going to give you some more information, just an overview of our department this evening. So Community Support and Outreach started in 2018, and the mission of, and we call it CSO for short. The mission of CSO is to provide services and education that facilitate self-sufficiency, healthy living, nutritional well-being, and chronic disease prevention. Many of our programs and services are government mandated and safety net services. And to that end, CSO programs and services fall primarily under the county's public safety strategic objective with a focus on health and welfare. And many of our programs also align with the community consensus and sustainability strategic objectives as well. So a little bit more about our programs and services. The CSO department has 7 different programs that can be divided into 3 main areas. The first areas are federally mandated economic stability programs, including our energy assistance programs and Work First. Our energy programs provide utility assistance and include the Low Income Energy Assistance Program, or LEAP, and the Crisis Intervention Program, or CIP. The Work First program provides supportive services including job training, job placement assistance, retention counseling, child care referrals, and transportation assistance to aid families in achieving self-sufficiency. Both programs are income-based, receive federal funds passed through by the state, and follow federal and state policies. Our second area is our nutrition services for vulnerable populations, and that includes our special supplemental nutrition program for women, infants, and children, or WIC, and the senior nutrition program. WIC is also a federally mandated service and provides food to low-income, pregnant, breastfeeding, and postpartum women and their infants and children under the age of 5. The program is income-based, receives federal funds, and follows federal and state policies. Our senior nutrition program supplies congregate meals and programming at 4 meal sites and home-delivered meals to homebound seniors who cannot attend a congregate site. The program is partially funded by our Home and Community Block Grant, or HCCBG, which is both federal and state funds, and it's part of the Older Americans Act funding. Unlike the other programs that I discussed a few seconds ago, it is not specific criteria are determined by the state. And although the program isn't income-based, over 80% of our participants fall below the federal poverty level. Our third area is our community outreach and engagement activities, including volunteer coordination, health promotions and education, and our parenting program. Our outreach programs keep our community healthy, educate underserved populations, and ultimately decrease chronic disease and healthcare expenses. These outreach activities are a requirement of public health accreditation. We receive federal and state funding for some of those activities. Our volunteer program includes our Christmas Bureau, which provides holiday gifts and food to low-income families, the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, or VITA, which offers free tax help to lower-income individuals and families, school supplies to our foster care children, and Easter baskets to both our foster care children and adult wards. This program is funded by donations as well as county funds. The parenting program provides a 13-week evidence-based intensive parenting program to families who are overwhelmed and struggling with parenting role, or for those experiencing the early stages of child maltreatment and need intervention and treatment. Most of the referrals for that program come from DSS and the Department of Juvenile Justice. And the program is primarily funded with state grants. And in addition to these programs and services, CSO serves as a convener of local service providers working to maximize partnerships, collaboratively identify key issues, and build a healthier Union County. The CSO department is responsible for the community health assessment, which is our mechanism to assess the community's strengths and resources, health issues, emerging issues, and community concerns. And we call that the CHA for short. The CHA is required to be completed either every 3 or 4 years and is a public health accreditation requirement. We complete ours every 3 years, and we do that in collaboration with Atrium and Novant Health, and we are currently conducting our 2025 CHA. CSO is also a member of the opioid settlement work group. I know this slide has a lot of information. Our current funding enables us to deliver services. Approximately 40% of our budget comes from either federal or state grants, and approximately 60% comes from county funding. We have 35 full-time staff, 5 benefited part-time staff, 2 part-time staff, and then we have 3 seasonal staff who provide services and work during our LEAP season. So they're full-time during that season, but they're considered part-time. So it is a little confusing, but that's what those numbers are about. And this is a very difficult slide to read. But I'm just going to summarize this, and actually the next page, I know that you have printed copies of the slides as well. We have at least one performance measure for each of our programs. The success of our programs and therefore our ability to impact vulnerable community members are measured by the number or volume of sessions and activities provided. And I welcome you to look these over at your convenience, but I'm going to highlight some of the information on these slides for our fiscal year of 25, which just ended at the end of June. So our parenting program increased service delivery by 55%. The average number of clients served by our WIC program increased by 17%. Our Work First program processed 5% more applications. And although our clients served by our crisis assessment unit, which provides our energy assistance programs, the number of staff stayed the same, but we processed 54% more SIP applications and 44% more LEAP applications, which is showing the needs that we're having in our community. Again, I know this is a busy slide as well, and there are lots of accomplishments that we have up here, but I'm going to summarize this as well. So over the last 7.5 years, we have realigned services, engaged in quality assurance projects, and implemented new processes and systems that have improved the delivery of our programs and services. In a short period of time, we achieved many successes that have furthered our mission as well as many of the county's strategic objectives. And I'm just going to name a few here. Over the last 5 years, we have grown and expanded the number of clients served by our WIC, parenting, and our energy programs. Between fiscal year 21 and 23, so that was during our COVID time, we implemented and distributed $11.5 million in rental and utility assistance through our emergency rental assistance program, and that ensured that our residents remained in their homes and landlord received payments. As I mentioned before, we collaborate with Novant Health and Atrium Health to complete our community health assessments, and we did that in 2019, 2022, and we're doing that now in 2025. We also engaged stakeholders and community partners to build sustainable services and community consensus work on community priorities through our Union County Healthy Advisory Coalition, the Opioid Settlement Work Group, outreach efforts through our community engagement and health promotions team, and the creation of groups such as our Substance Use Disorder Task Force and our Mental Health Solutions Group. As I've mentioned a few times already, the programs and services in CSO are safety net services and provide for the health and welfare of Union County residents. As such, we want to make sure that residents have access to them. We know that some residents are unable to access services and that they need due to factors such as lack of transportation, lack of available services outside of work hours, or a lack of childcare. We also know that the reason that some people do not obtain services is because they are unaware of the programs and services that are actually available to them. As such, one of our key initiatives is to provide increased access to programs and services by reducing barriers, educating the community about our programs and services, expanding our delivery options, utilizing program flexibilities, and by bringing these services out in the community where access is limited when that's appropriate. Our second key initiative is to facilitate community partnerships and conversations to address issues impacting Union County residents. Again, we do that by facilitating and participating in coalitions, task forces, committees, and work groups, and we do, again, facilitate a good number of those ourselves. And last but not least, I'm going to talk a little bit about our challenges and issues. So as everyone knows, Union County is growing, and as it grows, so do the needs of our community. According to projections from the North Carolina State Budget and Management, between 2022 and 2042, the population in our county is expected to increase by 51%, and the 65-plus population is expected to increase by 120%. That means that we need to make sure that there are programs and services available to those who are most vulnerable, and ensure that we are meeting the strategic objective of meeting the public health and welfare of community members. And going hand in hand with the population growth is funding challenges and issues. Federal and state funding for many of our programs, including our energy assistance and even programs for our older adults, have decreased, while the need continues to grow due to increased housing, utility, and food costs. And there are limited resources in our community that are available. The need for affordable mental health and substance use services has increased, and unfortunately, again, there is limited availability of services in our county. And our senior nutrition program, and I believe I've talked about this before, depends on volunteers to deliver meals. And when volunteers are unavailable, our staff have to jump in, and that puts extra burdens on our staff too. But despite all these challenges, there are definitely opportunities. Our program managers and supervisors are always looking at ways to improve operations and service delivery. And one successful example of this is in our WIC program. WIC staff have utilized increased state flexibilities in policy and improved communication with participants. And as a result, the wait time for new appointments decreased from 46 days in February to 8 days in June, and that's continued. That's pretty huge. CSO programs have used community partnerships to enhance service delivery. In May, Union County Senior Nutrition Program began collaborating with Food for Families, NC, a nonprofit in Indian Trail, to deliver weekly bags of groceries to seniors who are waiting for permanent placement in the county's home delivered meal program. So at least they're getting some meals from another source. We are also always looking for ways to find additional funding. And for this year, our senior nutrition program received additional funding from our Board of County Commissioners and several municipalities to reduce our wait list. And in FY26, which is this year again, our parenting program enhanced funding through DSS funds, and they are now serving the 6 and over population where we were very limited in our capacity to do so before. We weren't able to until a couple of years ago, actually, but this funding is allowing us to do a lot more of that. And that really concludes my presentation about our department. I'd welcome any questions that any of you have.
So Commissioner Sides had asked a question about the wait list for senior nutrition. And as of August, early August, we had 358 people on the waiting list, which is down from the mid-600s, still a lot, but down from the mid-600s. And we will take off 110 from that by the end of September, and that is due to the funding that had come from the Board of Commissioners and from the municipalities who have decided to partner with us. In addition, the way that the wait list has been reduced is through vetting of the seniors who are on the wait list. And so those who are remaining are those who are, we've gone through basically all of the wait list now. And so those remaining are the ones who still are actively in their homes and needing assistance. The other thing I would mention is when we talk about this again, it will not be 248 on the waiting list, even though we take off 110 in all likelihood, because we have 25 to 30 additional apply at least every month. So is that helpful?
Yeah, and I also want to mention that, thank you, Janet. I was going to say that it's not going to evenly balance out because we're always adding people. But we're really going to be working on vetting that list throughout this year and coming up with really good processes to do that, to make sure that we're taking people off as there's no need. We also, the funding that we are receiving, we are going to be providing more meals. And so those folks who live in the outlying areas who require frozen meals, we're not going to be able to add them or take them off the wait list right now. So I did want to add that component to it too.
Let me just say, as one of your county commissioners, I have and will continue to try my best to secure funding to make sure people that need it get fed. Until some recent health challenges that has taken away my ability to drive, my wife and I served as a volunteer to deliver. And it was very obvious that we were the only interaction some of these people had with the outside world or other folks from county services. And just to interact with these people and see how appreciative they are for what we can provide for them. Believe me, this is not a fluff government giveaway program. These are people who look forward to this each week because this is the only substantial meal that they will receive. It got so much under my skin. There's one client serving who has this old dog, and I mean old dog figuratively, it is obviously an older aged dog. So we started taking treats to the dog each week. So Dad got fed and the dog got a treat. And it got to the point where the dog was looking for us as we got there. Where's my treat?
Love that.
But it is the most, personally for me, satisfying volunteer opportunity, other than this board, of course, that I've had the opportunity to be involved in, providing a basic need of food for people who don't have the ability to get to the grocery store, don't have a family member in the home that can provide these services, or the ability themselves to transport and get it or prepare it. It is in my opinion, it is one of the core basic services that our local government can provide for our citizens. And I will continue to advocate, whether it's successfully or unsuccessfully, to increase funding until there is zero wait list for people getting meals and people getting in-home services, because I have seen firsthand how critical they are for these citizens of our county.
Thank you. We really appreciate your advocacy, because I believe that really helped us to secure, or it did help secure that funding from the county commissioners. So we really appreciate it. And I will echo, I also deliver meals once a month, and I know Janet delivers meals as well. And a few other folks in here I think do as well. And it is very, very rewarding. And I encourage everyone in here to sign up to do that if they're able to do so.
I just had a question. What were some of the vetting reasons to remove people from the list?
So, more of it was that we didn't have the staff. So our program is staffed with four benefited part-time site managers. So they work at the sites to get the meals out. So they don't have extra hours. We have 2 part-time folks that fill in and help out with that, and also deal with all the volunteers who might cancel and so forth. So are filling that, are really working on making sure we do that and get everything staffed. And then we only have 2 full-time staff, and all of them, one of them goes out and does all the assessments. We just didn't have the staff to continuously keep up with the wait list the way we wanted to. We would send letters out twice a year to people and say, hey, if you don't want to be on the wait list, give us a call. And sometimes people would call, but most often they wouldn't. So we were able to get some assistance from a few other staff in the building who had a little availability, and so we made calls. We did have people on the wait list from 2022, 23, so that's really what I mean by that. We just wanted to get through the wait list and make sure that people still needed it, and unfortunately some people, had passed, some people were living with families, some people were in facilities or homes. So that's really, or some people said they were no longer interested. So that's how we were able to get that wait list down. So we are working on a plan on how to maintain that and keep up with that on a more consistent basis than sending letters out. So we're working on that process, and we're working with our QA department on that.
Stephanie, well, think of that. I think that's a great thing that you guys are doing. And I talked to Janet maybe about a couple months ago, and she gave me a contact because me and my wife wanted to maybe help in one of the centers or even do some delivering of some meals. And they told me they had to get a background check, and and I haven't heard. It's been about a month at least, I think. But I haven't heard anything back.
I'll check in, see what's going on. I know we just changed our volunteer software, so that might have been part of it, but I'll check on that, Earl.
Thank you.
Next, we have Ms. Colley, so then
This evening. I am Tracy Colley, Public Health Director, and this evening I'm going to give you an update on the Environmental Health Division's private well water program and some information on water quality. So the well program in the state of North Carolina, and I mean private drinking water well program, is governed by general statute and rules that support the general statutes, and those rules include oversight of construction standards for wells, permitting and inspections, water quality sampling, protection of water supplies, which has to do with setbacks and that kind of thing. And then Union County also has a irrigation well ordinance. That is a public health ordinance, so it's enforceable across all municipal boundaries. So a large subdivision that's served by public water and public sewer, if they want to irrigate like the fancy front entrance area so their plants look good, that's an irrigation well. And that would be permitted to the same standards as a private drinking water well and sampled likewise. And that's important because if you think of the water table and the groundwater as a flowing glass of water, each well is a straw that you put in that flowing glass of water. So we want to make sure those wells are constructed properly, and we protect that very, very valuable resource. So this is just an overview of some of the activities that occur within the well program that the team of environmental health specialists take care of, and that is permitting new wells, repairs to existing wells, and issuing abandonment permits. We of course do inspections, construction inspections of different types. We do consultations at properties, and then that includes irrigation wells. We offer a variety of water sampling, water quality sampling for wells, bacteriological analysis, an inorganic panel, nitrite, petroleum, pesticide, herbicide, and that's for both new and existing wells. The required water sampling for new wells is bacteriological analysis, an inorganic panel, and nitrite analysis. So when water sample results come back from the state lab or from our local public health lab, and our local public health lab analyzes for bacteria, does bacteriological analysis for coliform and E. coli. We report out those results specifically and give a summary of information along with those results, and that's what we call a health risk evaluation. So folks can interpret those results and understand the health implications for those. We offer downhole camera assessments of wells. We have a downhole well camera. We can drop down into the well to look at the geologic formation. It helps us look at the casing depth, how well that casing is seated in consolidated material, how well it's grouted, that kind of thing. And then we also are heavily involved in partnerships with universities and others in that space, and I'll talk a little bit about that next couple slides. This is just an example of a typical well permit. The top little page up there, top left, it's hard to see, but that's the front of the permit, has the statistics and the documentation related to the property owner's information. And then the diagram on the lower end shows some distances and setbacks from a proposed house, the on-site wastewater system, property boundaries. Sometimes there are features on adjacent properties that we have to be mindful of, so that all setbacks are observed and noted during the permitting process. So when an application comes into environmental health, there's a fee that is paid with that. We conduct a site visit. We also, as we're assessing any potential sources of contamination on the site, we're taking measurements, and we're also doing some desk work, some desk research, researching some DEQ, Division of Environmental Quality databases for UST sites, other identified contamination sources, because that can impact casing type. It can also impact setbacks and other information associated with permitting. So when a permit is prepared and issued, we send that to the owner, and that is what the owner provides to the well contractor, which enables them to start well construction. We offer a pre-construction site visit, so if there's any questions, because you can imagine during a construction process, house site can change, property boundaries can change, lots of things can change, like there could be excavation. So any changes like that can impact a well permit. So we may have to suspend it or revoke it, reissue it, because any small change can impact the ability to drill the well in the identified location. Because we know that's important, because that well is going to be the drinking water source for that family or that person that's going to be living in that home. So that's just a shot of a typical well in Union County. We've got the vent pipe, we've got the electrical conduit, we've got the outlet pipe. That's the sanitary seal on the top of the well. You can barely see it down toward the bottom front. That's the information plate that's required in North Carolina. It has the data for the well, the date it was drilled, how deep it is, what the yield is, or gallons per minute, what the static water level is. It's just got some very important information, and that's required to be placed on that well. Okay, so certificate of completion. So a certificate of completion is issued for a well once all construction criteria have been satisfied. So all construction inspections are completed, the well's been chlorinated, all inspections have occurred. That could be for a new well or even a repaired well. So we notify the property owner multiple times throughout the process, because you can imagine during the construction process, lots of things are happening. So we want to really make an extra effort to communicate with the property owner, builder, developer, or all three, so everyone knows where they are in the process and what needs to be done so they can communicate with us. Ideally, we want to be able to collect the required water quality samples prior to the certificate of completion being issued. We cannot hold the certificate of completion for water quality sampling, but we would like to. So we encourage folks, if at all possible, to drill the well earlier in the construction process, which gives the property owner, developer, builder, whatever, time to develop the well, get it installed, chlorinate it, run temporary power to it, so we can start that water quality sampling. So those results are back, so we know, and the property owner knows, that the water is safe to drink before the certificate of occupancy is issued. Certificate of occupancy is what's issued by building code enforcement saying everything's good with your house, here's your CO, you can move in. So just to run through some of the things that we do with a new well, we always check for chlorine. This is for water quality sampling beforehand. You know, obviously, we want to make sure the chlorine is run out so that the bacteria results are accurate. We disinfect the tap, we collect the samples, as I mentioned. The Union County Public Health Lab evaluates the bacteriological samples, and the other samples are sent to the state lab in Raleigh for analysis. And as I mentioned, there are a number of samples that are offered for existing wells too. So well water sampling results related to new wells. Again, water quality sampling is required, but not required to be done before the certificate of completion is issued. So this is just a section of the rules that speaks to water sampling and analysis, what the samples need to be analyzed for, and just kind of speaks to the process. It says a local health department B down at the bottom under 3805 data review. The local health department shall provide information to the well owner or respective leaseholder concerning chemical and biological contaminants exceeding public drinking water MCLs, that's maximum contaminant levels, and the need for exposure limitation, remediation, or future sampling. So we do that in the health risk evaluations that we send. So this is a general geologic map of North Carolina. You can see Union County kind of center at that little crook down there toward the bottom. So we are underlain by metavolcanic rock. It's highly fractured vertically and horizontally. It's typically poorly developed, very shallow. It's difficult for septic systems, and it can be challenging for wells. This is some of our well program data. I just updated it for fiscal year 25, so this is good through the end of June this year. About 664 well permits have been issued, 1,585 site visits, unduplicated, have been conducted, 2,362 consultative visits, and then we've done some sampling on 808 different types of samples. And we have all that data, which is a very rich database that we use for mapping and reporting, and a lot of universities are interested in our data because it's so robust. And we have a strong GIS department here in Union County, so it's very valuable. So these are our most common well contaminants, and this is data from this past fiscal year. Manganese, that's a secondary maximum contaminant. And about 15% of our samples come back elevated above MCL for manganese. Arsenic, 32.23% of our samples are above MCL for arsenic. And the other thing I wanted to mention is MCL, maximum contaminant level, secondary maximum contaminant level. Those are levels that are enforceable through the Safe Drinking Water Act of the EPA. That is what public drinking water supplies must comply with. Since these are private drinking water wells, it's a little bit different. But that's how these levels are determined. About 3.35% of our samples are above MCL for iron. No surprise there. Our soil is red, very highly oxidized, and a lot of iron. About 27.62% of our samples are found to be present for coliform. That has a lot to do with geology, placement of casing, how well the annular space is grouted. And so just remember, some of these samples were collected on existing wells too. So some of those wells may be older and drilled prior to our regulations. And of the 27.6% samples that are found to be present for coliform, about 1.59% of those are present for E. coli. That percentage for E. coli and the coliform percentage can fluctuate based on rain events. During one of the hurricanes previously, we offered some free well water sampling for bacteria, and the percentage of coliform and E. coli in samples on wells that the property owners felt like they were impacted by flooding just almost doubled. In some cases tripled. So back to responsibilities of Union County. So approximately 25% of Union County residents use private drinking water wells as their primary source of water. So it's very, very important that we protect that resource. We make sure that folks are educated about their wells and they understand the importance of routine testing and sampling. In the state of North Carolina, owners of private drinking water wells are responsible for the ongoing responsibility once the well is drilled, constructed, and that initial sampling is completed, the responsibility of maintaining the well itself, the mechanical components, and continued sampling of that well periodically is the responsibility of the property owner, the well owner. So this is one of the maps that I developed for arsenic in Union County. These samples were from August 2028 to May 2024. So you can tell it pretty well covers most of Union County, with the exception of a small area to the left of that green line. If you could kind of see that there, some of you guys have heard this presentation previously. So that is the delineation with the Carolina Slate Belt. That's where a different geological formation comes in. So to the left of that, which is kind of Weddington, Waxhaw, up through Stallings, that's a different formation. So the prevalence of arsenic at very high levels isn't quite as concentrated there. It's not that we don't have a little bit, but not quite as concentrated in that area, despite that being, more heavily populated than really the eastern or the northern part of the county. Just so you know, the black diamonds, well, actually, I'll start with red. Red is the locations that exceed the MCL for arsenic, the maximum contaminant level for arsenic, and the black are severely exceeds the maximum contaminant level for arsenic. I'm very concerned about that. The blue, it may have arsenic, but it doesn't exceed the established maximum contaminant level. And just as a historical note, the maximum contaminant level of arsenic used to be 50, and now it's 10. So as the science has shown that there is neurological damage with a well-known toxin of arsenic, they reduced the MCL from 50 to 10 a number of years ago. So arsenic, how do we know we got it? We don't really know. It's colorless, it's tasteless, it's odorless, so you wouldn't know. The occurrence is the naturally occurred prevalence is typically controlled by geology, although there are other sources, man-made sources, pesticides, coal plants, those kinds of things. Arsenic concentrations in a well can vary over time, depending on the life of the well. So you can, have some fluctuations in arsenic levels in one well to another in a neighborhood over time. An MCL of 10 micrograms per liter, studies show give you a lifetime cancer risk of 1 in 150. 1 in 150. There are ways, very, very effective ways to treat arsenic in water. One option is adsorption. Carbon filters typically do not remove arsenic. One of the research partnerships we are have with the UNC Chapel Hill Superfund Research Project is one of their projects is to develop some lower cost residential treatment options for arsenic. And I'm not sure if I said this, but arsenic is a neurotoxin, particularly problematic for young children, chronic exposure over time. It's a tough thing to study, especially with modern families and way they live, and bottled water, kids go to daycare, they drink the water there, not necessarily at home. Parents go to work, they're drinking the water at the, so it's really difficult to measure from a demographic perspective. It can be done, but it's tough. So this is a map of manganese. Manganese at lower levels, and as I mentioned before, it's considered a secondary contaminant, is really a nuisance. It can sometimes affect taste and smell. It leaves mineral buildup in your toilet, sometimes in your sinks. We have a well, we have elevated levels of manganese, not super high, but what's of concern with the levels of manganese that we're seeing in our water is they are above the public health risk level. Elevated levels of manganese are shown to be also a neurotoxin. They can cause symptoms that resemble Parkinsonism, so also a neurotoxin. And it's also very important that they actually receive it. If they are a homeowner and they've contracted with a developer or builder, and the builder or developer receives the information, we want to make sure that information is passed to the property owner and the family before they start drinking it. Any questions about those two maps? Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you, Tracy, for so much information. The question I had, excuse my ignorance, but when it comes to the arsenic or the manganese, say a person has a house and they're building it out there, and they're not drinking it, but can exposure still affect them just by maybe showering in that water?
That's a great question. So typically not at the levels that we have. Children may be different if they're bathing in it and they get it in their mouth. You wouldn't want that, but just showering in it rolling across your body, or it depends on the level of arsenic if you're brushing your teeth. But we would recommend that you not use it for drinking and cooking. Yes, sir. Particularly arsenic. So I kind of touched on certificate of occupancy issuance, drinking water testing by our regulations for a private drinking water well. And this is from General Statute 87 through 97H. Within 30 days after it issues a certificate of completion for a newly constructed private drinking water well, the local health department, that's us in environmental health, shall test the water obtained from the well or ensure that the water obtained from the well has been sampled and tested by a certified laboratory, which our public health laboratory is, in accordance with, and then it goes on to talk about that. Environmental health does not, I want to be clear about this, environmental health does not have the legal authority to hold a COC until after well water samples are collected and results reported. So that is clear. I've already asked about that. It's gone to the Attorney General's office. We in environmental health or public health don't have that authority. And please note that the water sampling that I'm referring to right now for a new well is limited to bacteria, inorganic, nitrate. Yes, ma'am.
Is that different in other counties?
No, these are state rules.
Right.
These are state rules and regulations. The only thing that's unique to Union County is our irrigation well ordinance.
So across the state, everyone can get a certificate of occupancy before the...
So I am aware of some counties that have local ordinances that may put additional requirements in place prior to a certificate of occupancy being issued. And I believe that's Wake and possibly Guilford. I think Mecklenburg has something, but I think it may be more geared toward bacteria.
So for clarity, like the person who built it, you know, would be the person that you would be seeking to notify, but they may have already sold it, someone's living in it, drinking the water.
Our legal responsibility is notify the property owner.
Okay, so if it has been sold, it's.
We have no control over them passing the information on to the new owner, or
I mean,
even.
that's the concern on.
Right, or
it being
even from
reversed.
there forward if the house changes hands, from a legal perspective. So building code has some authority, which they require only potable water shall be supplied to plumbing fixtures that provide water for drinking, bathing, or culinary purposes, or for in the processing of food, medical, or pharmaceutical products. Unless otherwise provided in this code, potable water shall be supplied to all plumbing fixtures. And in the North Carolina Building Code, potable water is defined as water free from impurities, present in amounts sufficient to cause disease or harmful physiological effects, and conforming to the bacteriological and chemical quality requirements of the Public Health Service drinking water standards or the regulations of the Public Health Authority having jurisdiction.
What about when a house with a well sells? I know it's the owner's responsibility to service it, and due diligence would be for the buyer to inspect that, but is there any kind of?
There are no requirements in the
there?
state of North Carolina. The only requirements that I'm aware of are sometimes lenders. Lenders, like VA loans, may require bacteriological analysis. Sometimes, which I don't really know how this is determined, but we have had folks request nitrite sampling, others inorganic. I would assume that it could be written into the contract, but I'm not an authority on that.
Buyer beware.
So there can be some process changes. There could be some process changes. As I mentioned, we want to try to educate folks on the importance of drilling the well earlier in the process. So by drilling the well earlier in the process, which is simple, the rig can get in easier. The rig doesn't have to worry about, it's a large piece of equipment. They don't have to worry about cracking the driveway, damaging the shrubs, the sidewalk, etc. They can get that rig in there, drop the well where it's supposed to go based on the permit prior to any changes being made. And the well can be developed, chlorinated, run off. We can get our samples. The samples can come back, and we can address the potability through whatever treatment is necessary based on the chemical constituents in the well. Because the treatment is not always just treating for that one contaminant. We have to look at the full chemistry of the water, so whatever we're doing treats it more holistically. Okay. So I mentioned some of the partnerships we have. We have had a partnership with UNC Chapel Hill Superfund Research Program since around about 21 or 22. We have provided a good amount of data and consultation around our wells, our construction data, our water sampling data. I sit on an advisory board with that group. We've provided a lot of information about our well program and how we handle wells and water quality sampling and education in our community. And so that partnership continues. And it's been a great collaboration and really enabled us to provide a better service to the citizens of Union County and enhance some of the work that's being done in this area, including the development of lower cost treatment options for property owners. As part of this Superfund research project, a test well was drilled at Jesse Helms Park. That's right, kind of smack dab in the middle of the arsenic problem there. So they used a unique type of drilling process the professor that was lead on that project was out of UNC Charlotte. NC State is also involved, other universities, so it's really a collaborative effort across multiple institutions. And so this link here, and can you hit that link? Megan. This link, if you have time and you wanted to take a deeper dive into this, this gives the data. There's a lot to look at. So of course, the link didn't work, but that's okay. It gives a lot of the data of the results from the Union County work that was done. It talks about the community meeting that occurred after, reporting the information. This program and collaboration included a citizen science sampling effort where individual property owners that were found to be in these high arsenic or manganese areas were given free sampling for their wells, and the sample results were reported back to them. What's a little bit unusual is some of those results were collected inside homes. So one of the issues we found with that is there was some lead, some elevated lead. We know that that's not a typical contaminant in naturally occurring contaminant in Union County groundwater, but it can be a contaminant when you have contact time with plumbing or lead solder. All right, so what are we going to do about this? So in addition to the partnership and research projects, I pitched the idea that we use ARPA funding to fund a private drinking water well rehabilitation and repair program. So we had and this is just a pilot program. The application period for this was originally July 1 to July 31st, and then we extended it on out to August 31st in 2023. So during that time frame, we accepted applications. There was an eligibility component, so we wanted to target lower income folks, property owners. You know, this wasn't really for businesses or rental properties. These are property owners that had wells that they were concerned about. And as part of the program, folks were given a full panel assessment, you know, again, bacteria, inorganic, nitrate, nitrite, an assessment, a site assessment, and reporting back educational information if they were selected, and we were able to confirm issues with their well. The grant funding was used to fund the repair or replacement of their wells. So, let's see. Let me go back one. Oops. Okay. So with that, we ended up, because remember, there's no additional staffing for this. This is just me and a few of my staff because we're really concerned about this. We really want to not always be conveying this information to folks, but not having a way to help them. So there were 11 folks that were approved through the application process. 8 were able to move forward. The 3 that weren't selected to move forward with the repair process were found to not have contaminants in their well. It was a perception that they had about their well water maybe not being safe, or just the fact that they have a well and they hear that, you know, the myth that wells are bad. That is not true. Wells are not bad. Sometimes the wells have contaminant issues, just like public water, but it's treatable. So of those 11, 8 were selected, and we were able to assist some. We're in that process now. Some have gone through the process, and this is a video of, whoops. Oops. This is a video of one of the our citizens that we were able to help. Ms. Richardson.
Linda Richardson, a longtime resident of Mineral Springs, recently received life-changing support through Union County's pilot private drinking water well rehabilitation and repair program. After struggling with low water pressure and elevated contaminants in her well, she now has access to safe, reliable water right at home. Union County Environmental Health launched this pilot program in response to growing public health concerns linked to naturally occurring groundwater contaminants, primarily due to Union County's geology. Funded by the American Rescue Plan Act, the program provides eligible well owners with free well repairs or replacements. It also empowers residents with knowledge about maintenance, water treatment options, and the importance of routine water testing. In spring of 2025, Richardson's well was fully replaced.
Knowing that I could wash my car now, even though I'm 75 years old, it's a situation that I am free to do it if I want to. If I'm trying to clear out an area that I might be able to grow some grass. So it means a lot to me that I've got hopefully better water and better water pressure.
Linda's experience is one of many demonstrating how the pilot program is making a difference, improving not just water quality, but quality of life. Union County staff guide participants through every step of the process. After an initial application, wells are evaluated for eligibility and a site assessment is performed. Water samples are collected and analyzed to determine the best solution. After repairs or replacements are completed, follow-up testing ensures water quality has improved. Well owners also receive a final report with personalized recommendations for ongoing maintenance and testing. Through this initiative, Union County reaffirms its commitment to protecting groundwater and ensuring every resident has access to clean, safe, and sufficient water. To learn more about the program or check your eligibility, visit unioncountync.gov.
So again, we don't have all the results back in from all the folks that we were able to help. Mrs. Richardson was just one of them. She was very gracious to let us interview her. Her issues were not only contamination, but she had very low water yield. So that's also a public health concern, not having enough water to just exist. So we're finding those situations to be more common in Union County with insufficient water production.
Do you happen to know the amount of funding, ARPA funding, that was dedicated to this project?
$200,000 was.
And I assume because ARPA has ended, the project has ended, or is it continuing?
The project has ended. However, what we hope to do is gather data, because that's really what drives decisions, to make sure that we are really data focused on what we do and not just anecdotal. And we're able to show how the program was effective and a good use of county dollars to help certain individuals when public water is not available or it's not financially feasible, particularly due to the nature of the public health concerns. It's not just because someone wants public water. They need potable water to drink, to bathe, to wash their car, to wash their dishes. We had some situation recently, a group of folks in one area of the county whose wells went dry. So they have no water. So equally a problem, particularly if you have children, you can't bathe them, you can't cook for them. So it's a challenge. But that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
So I'm sorry, for 200,000, you had how many, or have how many going through the program, did you say?
I believe there are 8.
8? And not all have a finished product?
Correct.
Okay. So I would like to know, of those 8, for that 200 grand, of those 8, how many have successfully completed the project? In other words, the well has been repaired, replaced, etc. And so how much of that 200,000 has been used on that? So in other words, I'm trying to figure out the yield for the money invested in the program.
And so each project was capped at 30,000 also.
Okay.
So, and that, remember, this is a pilot project, so there are lessons learned, changes. We wanted to be conservative and try to help as many people as we could, thinking that not everyone would need a full well replacement, that many folks would need treatment, which would range in the, 5,000 to 20,000-ish ballpark. So it's really a good use of money if we can specifically address the concerns at each site, and definitely a lot cheaper than extending water lines. Yes, ma'am, did you have a question?
Well, it was on that point, I was just wondering what the average cost is for these, what is for full well replacement, so the maximum cost would be?
Well, it depends.
30,000?
It depends on how deep the well is, what they have to drill through, how large the pump is. I would say generally speaking, it's around 15,000. That's a very general, rough estimate. We purposely try to stay out of the pricing. We don't want to get involved in that. We want to be impartial and just identify what the issues are, but just generally speaking.
So of the 8, how many are left for completion?
I'll have to double check on that, Commissioner Sides, and let you know. I know, I think most of them are in process. So, we really need some more robust data to determine if this is a program that we would want to see continued.
That's exactly where I was going. I can't wait until you have that data, which I assume is all 8 are finished. We add up the price tag and we make sure all 8 pass as far as having clean water, I assume. Correct. And there's so then you'll have then you'll be able to dice it down to each particular case cost this much because we had to do this. But this one only cost this because we had to replace everything. That would be the far end of the most expensive case. Is that
So
fair?
currently with the program we have now, we've capped the amount per property at 30,000.
Okay, well, what if
That's as
30,000
much as it
doesn't
would-
get the job done?
What's that?
How do you know for sure that 30,000 is going to get the job done?
Well, that's where the well contractor comes in also. So we do a full well assessment. We work with the contractor to get bids and all that as part of the process. And so
you know ahead of time before you even get started, this is going to fall under our cap.
yes.
Okay, so you have full pricing. I'd hate
So-
to be the person who has to tell a homeowner you don't qualify because it's going to take more than what we're allowed for this project. I don't imagine that's a fun phone call.
Well, thankfully, we haven't had to do that yet. I
That's very good.
do want to mention that, this is not just an environmental health project. We had a lot of partners that supported us, particularly public communications. There's a grants management group at the government center that were very helpful, procurement, legal.
Helpful as in they got you money?
Beg your pardon?
Helpful in that they got money?
Well, they have expertise in the areas where we needed them, which would be, contract, we had to contract with contractors and the procurement process and, making sure we followed a legal process that didn't open up the county to liability as well.
Well, the whole reason for funding the grant positions was to get money. And I can't think of a better purpose to get money for than to get people drinking water. And so I was hoping for an answer, yes, we've tapped this source, or we know of this avenue, or we're working on these 3 avenues to get funding for this program. So I hope that will happen as your final data starts to come in. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
I just had a quick question, Tracy. I was just wondering, do most of the wells, do they have septic systems? And also, is it because potentially, if you have such maybe an older septic system, maybe 30, 50 years old, that maybe some of the wells could have some contaminants, like the E. coli, based on those older, very old septic systems?
So, that's a good question. So, most properties with septic systems, although not all, do have wells, and that speaks to the importance of making sure your septic system is maintained. and that if you identify a malfunction of that septic system, that we get it repaired so that the effluent that is surfacing during a rain event does not run toward that well and get in and around that casing and contaminate that well. It's a very important aspect to this, and just another facet of making sure the septic system is maintained and the well is properly sited and also maintained.
I know you said that the cost is, y'all try to stay out of that. But just for clarity, that you could drill that well only to then have contaminants just like any other well, right? Like, so you could go to fix it and then the water could still be contaminated and required.
It could possibly, we try to be mindful of that and then be able to add treatment after the fact.
So you can be mindful based on, like, where it perked at? I mean, like, how do you?
Well, no, we can be mindful based on the mapping of the geology and the prevalence of elevated levels of arsenic and manganese in that
It did
area.
seem clustered in that map, like there were some areas that all the black was, especially even, there was one area, it seemed like that the manganese and the arsenic were both clustered in the same area, right below the belt.
And some of that has to do with where a neighborhood is. Like, so all the sampling is done in that same general area, and that's why you might see some of those clusters like that.
You said that the water samples that gave those numbers were a mixture of existing and new. Is
Yes.
that based on how many new, it was like you had 600 and something new and 800 water samples, so that would be the percentage of it that was?
Generally speaking, yes. I don't have that specific number, but by far the majority are new wells rather than existing wells that are being sampled. And there are well owners in Union County that take their water or have their water tested and sampled by a certified private lab too. So this doesn't represent all sampling that's done in the county. That may be something that's done by a private lab as well.
Thank you.
Good question.
I know you said that there's no state law for a certificate of occupancy to be able to withhold that, correct?
That is not something that's currently being done.
Right. So
And
some
let me
counties.
be clear, I did not say there is no state law. I'll say that the certificate of occupancy is not being held for water quality sampling results.
Okay, because there's not a state law that's requiring that, correct?
I didn't say that.
Oh,
Like the order of it.
Hold on a minute.
wait, I would think that in our county, if 25% of the people have wells, this could really get out of hand if all of a sudden the county's going to be funding taking care of these wells. Why not, make it a homeowner and, buy or seller issue and enforce that by having an ordinance in the county to withhold the certificate of occupancy before, to make sure that this well is safe and the water in there is.
Has anybody looked into the legalities of the county being able to withhold a CO if the property, residential property, does not have a tested, functional passing well? Has anybody checked? Is that within the legal purview of the county to do that? Does anybody know? Have we looked into it that far?
You said that there were other counties that do that, right? Or no?
There are, like as Amy referenced, there are other counties that have local ordinances. I don't know them intimately, but I think they do have some requirements where they hold the CO for some sampling results. And remember, North Carolina is a big state. We have a lot of different geologies. The issues at the coast are different from the issues in the Piedmont, which are different from the issues in the mountains where you may have, radiological concerns. So it, depends.
So I can have a well that doesn't work, spits out arsenic, and you can't use, and I can still sell my house to you.
Yep.
I don't know what the laws of disclosure might be, but if I don't have to disclose that, I don't know, do I? That the well is not functioning.
If you know it.
Sorry?
If you know
about it as the
If I know
homeowner,
about
if
it,
you
which
know
means it's
about
been
it.
tested and it doesn't, then I have to disclose that.
You're supposed to legally disclose it.
Okay, so then if I haven't tested it and I don't know, I'm off the hook. But at some point you had it tested.
Because
At
it
least
would be the
initially.
buyer's due diligence that they should have,
The buyer, if they have a lick of sense and there's a well, I'm saying either, let me see your most recent test results, or we're gonna put it in the contract that this gets tested and gets, either way. And if it's bad, it blows up the deal. But then that puts the burden of proof back on me as the buyer, not the seller.
But going back to the occupancy question, could it not be that it was early, you said that it would be better served if people went for the well earlier in the process? That seems like, you have to get permits for a lot of things. So could we not have something that required them to do the well earlier in the process? That would eliminate this problem.
Very wise woman. So the way the building permit process works now is before a building permit is issued, an individual must receive confirmation from Public Water that they have access to water and sewer, drinking water and sewer. They also have to have, prior to the building permit being issued a copy of this construction authorization for their septic system and the permit to drill their well. So the permits have to be issued. It's just the well doesn't have to be drilled prior to the permit being issued. So you have to kind of think about like what the burden on the builder is and the change in process and how to enforce that, and is that something that we want to do?
I'm just saying, if the buyer doesn't want to take responsibility and the seller doesn't want to take responsibility, if they decide not to even test this water, right? Because if they test it, then they have to disclose it. Then they can easily just give up their responsibility and it will go right to the county, and then all of a sudden, you're going to start having a lot more than 11 people who are going to be wanting their wells repaired, potentially, right? I mean, I guess I'm just trying to prevent a potential bigger issue here. I mean, this is really nice, but if somebody's going to sell their home, I think it's a responsibility for the seller and the buyer to take care of this issue and test the water, disclose it, and there should be, I mean, I'm surprised there couldn't be a county ordinance requiring this. To me, this is like a fire, it's almost like fire codes. It's like, is your house safe enough to?
A county ordinance and mortgage companies should be involved in this
Yeah.
as well. If I'm a mortgage company, why in the world would I want to loan money against a house that doesn't have decent drinking water?
But that would be by state, not county. That's not something that we could
Well,
move.
that'd be by everybody, yeah.
Like, it feels,
If the water changes are unpreventable, then it might not matter.
This is if you know out front.
Well, there's effective treatment available, yes.
at what cost though? Like, I mean, some wells far exceed 30,000 if they have to be deep, and then you had a problem anyway, and then like, it's a huge range.
It's a challenging issue and something that you all can think about in your free time.
Fair enough.
And I'm happy to, you can kind of give it some thought and we can bring it back up at the next meeting if anything comes to you.
Tracy, I have one question.
Sure.
What about, so we're talking all about the individual property owners and the property, but what about the bigger picture of where all this is coming from to begin with? Like, are there, I mean, I think one of the slides mentioned like insecticides or pesticides. I mean, are there other things on more of a macro level that we should be paying attention to?
It's possible. There are sources of arsenic in some farming chemicals, pesticides, herbicides. Most of those have been phased out.
Okay, so this
But-
is really just natural?
Well, it could be that they're still on the surface of the land, they tend to bioaccumulate, and as development moves into agricultural properties, it's possible that wells that are installed in those areas, that may be a component of it. It's very difficult to prove
Yeah,
or make that correlation, if there even is one, just because of the naturally occurring nature of the arsenic.
I see. That makes sense.
I do have one more question.
Okay?
And that's with our elevated cancer rates in the county. Have they ever been mapped to see if they align?
So as I mentioned earlier, it's very difficult to study and correlate because of the way modern families and, people live and consume water. There was a Duke study many, many years ago that collected hair and nail trimmings of Union County residents served by well water. And these were folks that were long-term residents, and there was a correlation with some, but it was inconclusive and the study wasn't continued.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So, we're going back and forth now, I'm not talking about new builds, but about like homeowners and buyers and whatnot. One of the slides you said in here, 25% of Union County residents, primary waters, residents use wells for primary. It also says right underneath that, the owners of the private wells have the ongoing responsibility.
Ongoing.
Right. But then you have this pilot, but I guess everyone's was concerned about this could blow out and get out of proportion, but technically it's not the county's, it's the private owner's responsibility to take care of the well.
Correct.
After it's, yes, sir.
Right, so how they're gonna get out of proportion, the pilot project is there to help people, but ultimately, if someone applies for it, you can always say, no, it's not the county's responsibility, it's your responsibility.
The pilot's closed now.
Right, I think
guess
the
what I'm saying, it's not
pilot,
gonna blow out of it.
right, the pilot program was designed to assist folks of
Sure,
very low
absolutely,
income.
right.
It's not to promote development, it's not for that. It's-
Right, no, that's what I kind of figured it was there for
Yes,
people
sir.
who can't necessarily keep up with it.
That's right.
But ultimately, the wells are the responsibility of the owner.
No question, yes, sir.
This
Same
pilot
like-
program doesn't make us responsible.
Right, so wells, and again, so that is the purpose of the Safe Drinking Water Act. That governs the safety of public water supplies, which I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. But it does not, there are no regulations such as that govern private drinking water wells.
Do you have an idea when the remaining of those 8 in the pilot project will be completed?
No, sir, I would say before the end of the year, though,
Calendar or physical?
a calendar. Would you like me to provide those updated numbers?
Oh, yeah.
So if you have no more questions with that, we'll move on to the next one, which is the City of Monroe's boil water notice.
Okay, so since we're already talking about water, I just wanted to give you an update on the recent City of Monroe system-wide boil water notice that was issued recently. And just kind of talk through very high-level timeline of events and overview of what occurred and what public health's response was, particularly environmental health. So in the early hours or morning time of August 13th, we were notified, public health was notified by DEQ, the Division of Environmental Quality, Public Water Supply Section, and the North Carolina Department of Public Health, that the City of Monroe was on a boil water advisory. Now, the difference between an advisory and a notice is that a boil water advisory is issued as a precaution. So an initial sample was found to be potentially contaminated. And establishments that we permit or regulate in public health or environmental health may continue limited operations following safety measures. and that's boiling the water before use, and that's mandatory. It is the public water supply system's obligation to notify those customers of that advisory. So on the morning of the 13th, I was made aware of the advisory. When there is a sample that is found to be, in this case, present for E. coli, a confirmation sample must be collected. So when that advisory, when we were notified of that advisory, our actions were, like at the public health leadership level, to notify Janet, the county manager's office. There's some key folks that need to be in the know on that situation. Not that any action needed to be taken at that point, but for awareness purposes. At approximately 9:41 that evening, one of two confirmation samples came back with total coliform bacteria, and the city of Monroe, system-wide, not a partial system, system-wide, was placed on a boil water notice. That's an elevated category, and that means that the contamination is confirmed. It's a higher risk category, and it requires immediate suspension of operations involving water use until the notice has been lifted and establishment is cleared. And when I talk about that, I mean permitted and regulated establishments. So let's think about the permitted and regulated establishments that are within the city of Monroe. That's all your restaurants, that's schools, that's child care facilities, that's institutions like nursing homes, the hospital, hospice, facilities that we do not regulate, but we know are providing services or treatment that may be of concern. Doctor's offices, dental offices, orthodontists, dialysis centers. So we want to make sure we're getting the word out to them. So when the boil water notice was issued by NCDEQ and they notified us of that, we took action. We worked with public communications and others in the county, public health, environmental health, and began to get ready. The notification went out to the public, at least initially from the city of Monroe. They made note that it was a kind of a western zone issue. It was actually a system-wide notice. So our public communications team helped us make sure that our information was factual, current, correct, and easily understood by the public. So we pushed that information out late that night of the 13th, early in the morning of the 14th. And then early in the morning on the 14th, environmental health and public health, business operations, human services got to work, because we had to communicate with all of these regulated facilities, of which there are 496 within the city of Monroe. So we don't have a very large staff in environmental health, but we know what to do. We have everyone's contact information because we update it every time we go for an unannounced inspection. Sometimes that's 4 times a year, sometimes that's twice a year, sometimes that's annually. So we pushed out emails and communications to every one of those facilities. And our state emergency preparedness and coordinator reached out to NCDA, because we have the Tyson plant that was affected, Division of Health Service Regulation that regulates hospital and adult day service, DCDEE, Division of Child Development and Early Education, they were notified, Department of Education, or Department of Public Instruction was notified. So those facilities and licensing entities were responsible for reaching out to those facilities in addition to us, because lots of times those facilities have a food service permit with it. You know, so there's a lot of work going on. So we're pushing stuff out on social media, we're putting out information, public communications is helping, we're sending out emails, it's out on Gov Delivery, it's on social media. But remember, it's the water utility's responsibility to notify their customers too, so they should be notifying. So that morning, any facility where environmental health holds a permit, we were able to draft and then finalize issuance of a permit, a blanket permit suspension notification while the water was not safe to drink. So permitted food establishments, tattooing facilities, and other facilities that serving the public are not permitted to operate with contaminated water for obvious reasons. And this was E. coli, remember. So the regulatory authority with this is DEQ, Public Water Supply Section. We have ongoing and fluid communication with DEQ. At that point, we didn't have specific information on addresses and even names of specific City of Monroe water customers, and we just don't have that. There's a lot of locations in Union County that have Monroe addresses. We don't know if they're City of Monroe customers. Yes, sir?
The primary responsibility, since it happened in Monroe, would be the public utilities of Monroe for the residents.
Yes, sir.
And the timeliness of them, of notifying them.
So there's some wording around that. They can have as long as 24 hours, but if they can do it sooner, they should. You know, and a decision had to be made because we knew that morning we have breakfast facilities opening, we have immune compromised populations that are being served, so we had to make the determination to notify. Plus we have limited staff and it takes time to get the word out. And we made that call.
So do you do that for people that are getting their water service from the City of Monroe, but may live elsewhere? In other words, you can live in Indian Trail and have a Monroe address. Or are you doing it by address, like everybody that has a Monroe address?
So that was the challenge to begin with, because this was within the City of Monroe. So we really needed to engage with the City of Monroe to find out who exactly was served by this, because there's an economic impact to this decision as well. We don't want to close facilities or create panic when someone isn't impacted. We want to be correct, we want to be factual, and we want to make sure the information is shared in a timely fashion. So anyway, so we started working on that. We did complete all the notifications. We pushed everything out. The environmental health team split up. We actually had some facilities that didn't receive the information, so we visited them in person. Just because, remember, some of them start cooking at 4 a.m., so they're not checking their email, they're not waiting for a voicemail to come in from the health department. They probably wouldn't answer it anyway. I'm just kidding, they're really great. So we had to be very intentional on making sure that information was shared. So at that point, we did start receiving communication from the City of Monroe. They were able to determine that the area of contamination was in the western zone of the water system. If you can imagine, the water treatment facility is here. The water is treated, it passes through the eastern zone to the western zone. They had to prove or show NCDEQ that there was some type of check valve or backflow prevention or valve that didn't allow the contaminated water to back up into the eastern zone. They were able to do that. That was, DEQ's call. At that point, we were able to lift the suspension and on the eastern zone, and then it remained in the western zone until the next day, and they could address that issue. And then at that point, which now it's Friday the 15th, we were able to lift the suspension on the final facilities and confirm with addresses and maps that we had all the facilities covered, and then the event was closed. Again, so many people helped with that work, public communications, public health, the nursing staff, our lab team. They were working like a phone call-in line. We developed FAQs to respond. We just really wanted to approach this from a perspective of educating our citizens and making sure people were safe. And so that's a thumbnail sketch, a general summary of what occurred. And I wanted to make sure that I brought that to you all so you would be aware that that happened. And that is one of our responsibilities when that occurs. It has happened in the past. It happens from time to time that we're made aware of advisories, but there's a real reason behind those actions. Does anyone have any questions? I think I've lost some of my audience here.
It's not your fault.
Do they know how the first contamination happened?
I have not been made aware of the reason. Thank you.
Do you have any other questions on the Boyle notice? Do we have a quorum?
So we can cover the item, and
Okay.
why don't we cover it, see if there's any concern, and then we'll figure out if we need to have a vote that is an official vote to take it to the board, or if there is not concern, we'll bring it back if we, at the next meeting, if we need to have a vote.
Okay. So, Ms. Colley, if you want to lead us through the approval of the clinical service fees?
Sure. We have 3 fees this evening for your consideration and support. The first fee is a TB risk screening questionnaire. Currently, we do not charge for that. We were asking for a new fee of $10 to be charged for that. The second fee is a biopsy of a tissue pathological examination. The current Medicaid reimbursement rate is $84.18. Commercial fee is $107.83. We're recommending a fee of $109.43 for that. And then the final third fee is penicillin G benzathine. We are asking for a fee of $38.09 for that. And our nursing director is here and happy to answer any questions that may come up.
The first one, the TB risk, we currently don't charge for, and the recommendation's $10?
$10.
Could you just explain quickly what it means by fee, like who's paying the fee?
That is the patient will pay that fee out of pocket.
Or insurance? No?
Don't believe that's covered by insurance.
Patient fee.
Actually, it looks like there is a commercial reimbursement for 2 of them.
Right, just not the TB risk
Just not the
assessment
TB,
questionnaire,
yeah.
right.
We have a lot of those where people come in for that TB.
We do. I don't know an exact number, but we do. If someone's had a positive skin test in the past, they can't get that skin test again. They need that risk questionnaire. So a lot of times it's people that need it for employment or for school, and they just need someone to go through any possible symptoms or other risks that they may have.
Good job, $10 is worth it.
For sure. And it's important.
And that's consistent with other counties in the state that do have a fee for it.
What is the current fee on the penicillin?
My glasses back on. I don't think the current fee is there. We tip,
It was lower than what we're requesting, and we are just bringing it up to where it's,
Was it lower than the reimbursement rate, probably? Does anyone else have questions on this? Would anyone oppose the recommended fees?
and unfortunately, we don't have quorum. How do you want to handle
I
that,
think
Jim?
we will find out, since this group is in consensus, we'll find out if that can carry the day to take it to the board, or if we have to have a quorum, then we'll bring it back at the next meeting.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Tracy. Hold on.
Next on our agenda is announcements and public comments.
So, is that for us to go? Yes. So I want to introduce you all to Decor Bowers, who is our new social work division manager. She is over child welfare and adult welfare services. And so she is here on behalf of Ashley tonight, who is at home, hopefully healing quickly from her knee surgery. So Decor, I think you have a couple of things that you want to share?
Sure. Hello, everyone. So, just to go over some things, economic services, we currently have 8 vacancies. All of them are in the Medicaid department. A couple are due to promotions, and 3 of those are due to staff leaving after having children and babies. We are currently in the state audit, but there are no results to report at this time. Food and nutrition, as well as Medicaid, are both meeting their time limit standards. September is Eligibility Worker Appreciation Month, and a breakfast meeting is planned for all of economic services. Karen, who is the division manager for economic services, has purchased some gift baskets to give away as door prizes for the meeting. And then as far as child welfare, we currently have 6 vacancies total. 3 of those are supervisor positions. We did have a supervisor die recently, and then we had 1 to get promoted and 1 that left the agency. The social work positions are in after hours and foster care. And in adult services, we only have 1 vacancy, which is supervisory position. In adult services, they are meeting their time limit standards for this.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Congratulations, Nicole.
Decor is awesome. So I have a couple of other quick updates. One is that Union County is 1 step closer to launching a Veterans Treatment Court. And that is thanks to a group of professionals, including Michelle Marcano, our Veterans Services Director, and Robert Turner, who have completed the first round of training that is required to be able to launch that. And the Veterans Court is a special court that will focus on helping veterans involved in the justice system. I think Chief Justice Aaron Hucks, who is the Chief District Court Judge, said it very well. The court is not a courtroom of punishment, but a courtroom of hope, healing, and accountability. By connecting veterans with treatment for substance use disorders, mental health care, housing, employment, and mentorship, often from fellow veterans, the intent is to affirm the commitment to ensuring that no veteran is left behind. And so we're excited about being able to move forward with that. It's not ready to launch yet, but proud that Robert and Michelle were able to be part of that effort. And then the only other thing I wanted to make sure that I let you all know is that we are going to be providing an opioid settlement update for the Board of County Commissioners at the September 15th meeting. And then we'll be kicking off a strategic planning effort, which Jackie has mentioned that at our last meeting, but we'll be kicking that off on September the 16th. And looking forward to that process. There will be 5 meetings from September through December for that group, and then we'll bring back proposed priorities for the Board of County Commissioners' consideration and go through likely some sort of an application process, and then The goal will be to have new contracts with funded partners by July 1st. Well, we have to have that done by July 1st because the current contracts will end June 30th. And I believe that is all that I was going to provide this evening.
Thank you. We have no other announcements or public comments. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I do a motion to adjourn.
A second. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? All right. Good night, all. Thank you.
Amy, I do want to mention